Hey, all right,
Hey.
cool. It works.
Yes, finally. Finally, we're back. Welcome
Finally,
to
we
Over
are
50
back.
Starting Over, everyone. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
Yeah. So we had a bit of a break. I
Yeah.
have been extremely busy myself. We've had lots of sicknesses going around. I mean, coast to coast.
Yes.
Really bad. I don't know who's had COVID, who hasn't.
Who cares?
Exactly. I was going to say that. And even in this household, it's been like, what difference does it make? It's
You
not
know,
going to change anything.
it really is. It's a funny thing. Like, if you get sick, everybody's like, "Oh, is it COVID?" Like, why do we care anymore? It's
Yeah.
you're sick. You're just
Yeah.
sick. Okay. Let's go back to if you have a runny nose and you're coughing and you don't feel good. Whatever, you're sick just like we used to be. We used to get
Mhm.
sick. Now we probably are a little more sensitive about, well, if you're sick, you probably should just stay home until you get better. And
Yeah.
that's
You
it.
made me think of, we're jumping around too quickly, but it made me think of this interview that maybe is PBD. I think it was Jordan Peterson did. I did share it with you. This woman, she's a doctor, don't remember her name, but she got caught up in all of the COVID stuff. She didn't even know she was getting caught up in it. She was just being a doctor.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's like
Interesting.
one of the things you made me think of, she's like, all of a sudden they're talking like hydrochloroquine is not effective. And she's like, all the science is right here in front of me. It's been
Right.
highly effective forever. We're lying. And boy, all of this crap led right up to the January 6th stuff. She was given a speech out there wherever in DC and literally got pushed by the crowds into the Capitol building during the January 6th riots and got charged and spent time in solitary confinement as a result. Wild, dude. Wild.
That is wild. And the thing is, it's like we're still the curtain is lifting and we're now seeing
Oh yeah,
what the
yeah.
wizard has been doing.
Oh yeah.
And
It's
it is
lifted.
diabolical, man. And I get the
Yeah.
feeling, and you and I have talked about this so much over the years, speculating about this. And now it's like we're starting we only have the tip of the iceberg right now, but what we are seeing is the swamp. It's terrifying, man.
Yeah. We're going to get way deep into that swamp in just a minute. There's something I want to clarify about a few weeks ago. I did a quick segment on hearing aids. And
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that was a good
shared
one.
this particular, not really. I shared this
No,
particular one that was for $160. You get it right
it's a
off
fake.
Amazon and just cheap Chinese stuff. I got this for my mother-in-law and I do not recommend it anymore. I went by, at the time I was doing those reviews, I did a little disclaimer saying that I didn't do a deep dive. I was just going by the reviews on Amazon at that point and saw no harm in trying a $160 pair because everything's so easy to return on Amazon anyway.
Right, right.
And yes, I returned it the next day. Did not. So my point to that is when you got the cheap Chinese stuff, and I've recently heard Amazon described as the American Alibaba.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my God, when I heard that, it was like, it clicked with me. It kind of is. There's all kinds of cheap China stuff on Amazon. And
There really is.
you got to
Crazy.
look beyond it. Another case in point off the top of my head here is no, it was last year. I bought a pair of gloves. They're like ski gloves, but they're rechargeable via USB. They have these batteries, so they keep your fingers and everything really
Oh,
warm.
wow.
Worked really great till this year when I needed them all the time. And they crapped out pretty quickly.
What, they
And
just stopped
so
working?
yeah, one would work, then the other wouldn't, that kind of thing until neither. And then one started ripping when it really just it shouldn't have. But it was at a $45 price point, a pretty good price for what that
Right,
was.
right. Yeah.
The other day I started looking them up for a better pair. Home Depot carries a particular brand name that I forget off the top of my head. But I think that if I'm going to revisit that route, I'm going to be looking at a 120 to 100 to 200 in that range, 120 to
Right.
$200 pair, and stick with the American reviews. A lot of reviews.
I'm so glad.
Hmm
And
Now,
this is one of those things, Barry. I mean, a couple of years ago, Anne Marie and I got real wise to the whole China gig and what was going on there, and how, it's so amazing the cheap stuff you can get, but it is cheap. I mean, it's not
low quality.
quality,
Mhm.
and it's cheap. And by the way, you're financing the Chinese Communist Party by doing that. And so we need to really buckle down and not buy China. In fact, it might be a little easier now that the new tariffs have come out from China. They're
And we'll get back to
15%.
that. Let me just clarify this real quick, and we'll get into all of that. And do want to do it rather quickly. I don't want to
I
bore
saw your
anybody.
face right there when I said China, and you're like, no, don't get into the news.
Yeah, yeah, because there's so much. There's
There's
so
too
much.
much.
We're
There's
not
too
way
much.
too much.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm sharing my notes over here, and I'm sharing just some searches over here. So I listened to some videos with some audio doctors. There's a
Okay.
real name for them that I forget, but yeah, real audio doctors. And I now recommend, and we are going to try one of these. I think I know which one. One of these three that I now recommend that you're looking at around $1,000 to $1,500 price
Wow.
point. But if you're
Okay.
talking about a senior, we're looking at our mothers over here, and we're talking moderate hearing loss.
Right.
And even still, you should check with, this is not BS. You should really check with your doctor first, have it tested, and talk these over. But, anyways, there's three that I recommend. None are from China. The first one is from Denmark. It is Jabra Enhance. The price ranges from, they always have like a bronze, silver, and gold version, right?
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
so these range from about $800 to $2,000 a pair. If you go over here, do you see the Google page?
Oh yeah.
Okay, there's
Yep. Yep.
that. Then you can go to their page itself, jabraenhance.com, and you could see this is a really nice pair for $16.95. And what you have to decide, there's a few things. You want it over the ear, behind the ear, in the ear, these kinds of things. So take that into consideration. Briefly, this one features these devices provide natural sound quality, Bluetooth streaming capabilities, easy in an easy use mobile app. They have a good 3 years of free audiology support with the package, and you can receive professional assistance as needed. So that's really nice.
Hmm. Hmm.
And Ergo is the next one. They're out of San Jose, California. Price points there, $800 to $3,000 per pair.
Boy, that's a big
And
range.
it's quite a range. It is. And so Ergo is down here. This is the Google search, and you'll find your basic information. And you can find these from Walmart. There's a pair for $1,500. And I pulled up the Walmart because they're going to give you a cheaper price and easy to return once again. And they specialize in completely in canal CIC. A lot of people want that, so they're almost
What
undetectable.
does that stand for again? CIC? Oh,
Completely
completely in canal.
kind of
Okay.
invisible. They're just really in there. A
Gotcha.
lot of people really want that. They don't want to feel like their grandparents with a giant thing hanging off their ear.
Right, right.
And
I
so,
always thought
I
when I
get
was a
that.
kid, I always thought those old men, they really love listening to their radios. That's what I thought they were doing. I thought they were listening to
They're
sports or
jamming.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. And last, this is the one I think that we may be trying pretty soon. Lexie Hearing from Pretoria, South Africa.
Uh-huh.
And it's a Bose technology, powered by Bose technology. Like that a lot. Being from South Africa, I'm thinking it can come at a better price point. We're talking $800 to $1,000 per pair. I think that is
Hmm.
worth a try. And just pulling up the searches over here, you could see they're compared with Lexie all the time. You're not going to get them close in price.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jabra. They're compared with Jabra a lot, and Lexie's going to be much cheaper. On Amazon, you can get this pair for $700, and this is a
Oh,
behind the
gotcha.
ear one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And provides a 45-day risk-free trial and a 1-year warranty. I think that is something worth
Okay,
considering.
so I have some questions.
Mhm.
I mean, last time, and you said this was just cheap Chinese
The last one, yeah.
manufacturing, but I mean, the price point was under $200. What
Mm.
could you said it didn't work well. What didn't work? Like, how did it not work?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Well, here in my office, it worked okay. And I saw a review from somebody that a user that really liked him. He has
Yeah.
like low hearing loss. He's in that category, and he said it worked pretty good, but for other reasons, he was upgrading to another similar brand. So if you're talking at a lower than $200 price point, you get what you get.
Yeah, yeah,
But
you
he was
always
just.
do.
But when I got to Lisa's mom's place in her apartment and tried to get her to try them, I couldn't get them to stop screeching. And
Oh,
I think it had to do with all the electronics running through the walls of
ah,
the apartment building.
gotcha.
And
Okay.
even still, when I was here in my office and trying them, I thought it sounded very tinny. I wasn't really crazy about them. I'm honestly pretty excited about trying that Lexie pair for, I believe it was around $1,000. I
Huh.
think that that's a smart thing when you have a 45-day trial period. No
Yeah,
questions
yeah,
asked.
yeah. Now,
You
here, I
know.
got another question
Mhm.
about your mother-in-law. How did you know when you have slight hearing loss, it might be hard to detect, or at
She
least
has a
that's just
lot of
my,
them.
oh, okay, so
Mm.
that's the deal. It's a
She's
lot.
been deaf in one ear for years, probably decades.
I
But
got
she's
you.
recently, her good ear, so to speak, has gotten pretty troubling. And it's really hard to have a conversation. And so if we could get one of these things in there to give her a 40% boost in that one ear, that'll be
Yeah,
great. And I notice my mother notices the same with her hearing. So we want to check these out, and
yeah.
I'll report back. But because it is risk free, I feel good in talking about it. I want to tell you a quick story you made me think about. Last Friday, I went to Lisa's mom's apartment building and take her
Yeah.
to dinner in
Uh-huh.
there. They have dinner there at about
Oh,
4:30 in the
oh,
afternoon.
4:30.
And
It's funny.
she likes to go on a date with me there, and
Aw,
it's dude,
I
nobody in that place
love
can hear. There
that.
was one person at our table, the one lady who's a neighbor of hers can
Wait, no
hear.
one can hear?
Nobody. And so I had a really nice conversation with her. And then, I'm talking so loud and, you get a lot of head shaking. Yeah, yeah. That when people are
Right,
trying
right.
to,
When
people
they
develop real skills when they can't hear very well, but they can fake it like they are.
Oh,
People
I'm real.
can develop.
I think I'm good at it.
Yeah.
Well, now you're a tall person, Barry, and so am I. And this is the problem. I feel like I've experienced what your moms are experiencing here because, and I bet you've experienced this too. You go to a party or you go to a club. Everyone's head is
Yeah.
down here. The music is blaring.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can hear each other down here, but you
Yeah.
can't hear anything because it's all loud music. So
Yeah.
that's when I pretend.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, it's
yeah.
awful. Yeah.
And
You
then
know exactly what it's like.
if they're going like this and wow, 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 nodding their head, and then they start smiling, you just
Yeah.
mirror them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Point once in a while. Oh, you. Uh,
So we've
I,
experienced this. We
Dude, I'm
know
the
what this is
same way.
like.
I
Yeah.
definitely have, because of listening to rock music too loud as a kid,
Uh-huh.
I have a low level amount of hearing loss and it affects me. I've learned that there's different kinds of hearing loss. I have the kind where in those crowded situations in a bar or something, I have a hard time discerning, focusing in on the one voice I'm supposed to be hearing. I just hear
Right.
ambient crap everywhere.
Yeah. And that's a problem. I mean,
Some of
not
these
being
hearing
able to
aids are supposed to help you focus on that.
I mean, I remember that commercial where there's some kind of hearing aid commercial where the guy's real frustrated and he's like, "What did he say?" And it's just, gosh, I can the
Uh,
frustration
yeah.
of
Oh,
not being
you
able to
lose
hear.
out.
Yeah, it's
Socially you
terrible.
become awkward, and that manifests
Isolated.
over time. So you start isolating. Yeah. So I think something like this, if you can afford $1,000, and maybe you can get that covered by some insurance.
That was my last
I
question.
don't know, dude. I don't know,
Okay.
but probably, I mean, I would imagine your doctor recommends it, if you get
I
a
mean,
hearing test and your
seems like
doctor's
a
like, yeah,
Medicare Medicaid thing right there.
you would think. You would
Well,
think.
let us know about that because I think that's a really important one, and
If
you're
I would
about
have
to.
thought of that pre-podcast, I would have put that into AI and I would have found out for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
want to take the time at the moment
right.
because we have so okay, I got a important text.
Oh, okay.
But it's fine. We got a
It
lot to
happens.
go over. I'm going
Right.
to just say
Right.
briefly, we got a whole bunch under healthcare to go over from multiple sources, but we got USAID. They call it
Oh
USAID. I
my
don't know why
God.
they don't say USAID.
Well, it's
Um,
funny because it almost makes it so you don't know what it is by not calling it USAID. Because
oh,
I used to
it's
see this
it's
acronym all the
underhanded.
time. And I
Yeah.
mean, I've known about this organization as a CIA front for a very long time, but
Hmm.
I didn't read it as USAID. Read it as USAID.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And then only recently when I saw it in two different colors, blue and red,
Uh-huh.
US and then aid.
Why
I
don't they
felt
say
like
USAID? I still do.
I
And
think
it's
it's
just,
I think it's to throw people off that
it
they don't
probably is,
understand
dude.
that this is actually a huge funding source. But yeah, go ahead. There's
Oh,
plenty
we got
more.
so much. We
Oh
want to
my
talk
God.
about the end of DEI. Because we missed a couple weeks and it was like the most important news cycle of our lives,
Right.
we're just going to have to skim over some of these. And I want to talk about the end of DEI, the MLK speech on MLK Day that Trump gave on January 20th, dropping out of who? I definitely want to talk about that. Uh,
Yes.
oh my God, it was amazing. I want to talk about the so-called declassification that's supposed to happen in JFK, MLK, and 911 files.
Nice. Nice.
Pardons. We got to talk about these pardons for a bit. There's tariffs to talk about. The Gulf of Mexico changing the Gulf of America.
Mm,
But I want to.
Denali turning into Mount McKinley.
Yeah, yeah. I want
I
to
like
lead
it.
off with something personal, though. We're going to go to the healthcare in a minute.
Okay.
But about a week ago, I woke up to, as I do, I pull up a Daily Mail to see what kind of sensational headlines are leading. That morning, about 1 week ago, international headline that they were leading with was about a Mexican restaurant in Cleveland Heights being raided by ICE. And it's my favorite restaurant that I go to at least once a week. It's called Cilantro Taqueria, right down the road from me. I talked about it here. I go there. I started brushing up on my Spanish. They're all Mexican, so that I can order. They all, they hardly speak English
Right.
there.
Right. Yep.
They're the nicest people in the world. I love them. And so this happened. And the reason that I bring that up is because until that happens to somebody that you have personal feelings for, you're in the ballpark of, yeah, man, get them all, get them out of here and get those criminals. I can't imagine any of these people being criminals outside of being illegal aliens. What I'm saying is, I thought we were getting the violent criminals and the gang members out.
Yeah.
These are the
Yeah.
nicest people. So I'm saying I can empathize with people now, not exactly Selena, what's her name, crying on her.
Gomez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Can't go there. That was kind of a disgusting Hollywood look at
Yeah.
me thing.
It's a ploy. Right.
Yeah. But I can say that I am so saddened by that news that it just hits me in another way. I don't know if you have any comments on
I
that.
do actually, and I've thought a lot about this because love is such a powerful force, and the fact is that we love our neighbors, and
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about other countries. It seems like this is very unique here, but we love here. We love
Yeah.
one another. The whole country is built on that, and even people that have come here illegally, they have assimilated into our society, and they're people. People are people, whether they came here illegally or not, and we fall in love with those people, and that doesn't make them bad people. We've all sinned and fallen short of the mark. I mean, we really have, but we come
Yeah.
to a time where these things have to be done in order to protect all of us. And it's a terrible thing. This whole thing that we've been doing has always been unsustainable, and we're all paying
Yes.
for it right now. It is overwhelming how much we're paying when we go to the supermarket to just try to survive. And now people are working multiple jobs. There are no parents at home when the kids get home because the parents are working. At least they both have a job, if not more than one
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
And it's because of inflation. And why is inflation happening? It's because we're giving out all kinds of money to support
Everywhere.
this this phenomenon that's happened with the illegal crossings and the
And giving them credit cards with our money, of our money. When did we approve that?
it's
Our health care.
it has gone on this wild train ride, and really starting at COVID, everything started to expand
Yes.
exponentially as
It's
far as the spending
authoritarian
went.
grab.
And then we saw it. We saw it at the supermarkets. We saw it at the gas station. We saw it at the when you wanted to buy a house. Everything became more expensive, and that is because in order to support that type of a society, it
Yeah.
requires deficit spending.
Yeah.
And what is that? That is spending money that we don't have. And when the government spends money that we don't have, they print the money. And when you print the money, it steals the value of every dollar that's out there in the market. And that's exactly what
Poor
we've
people
seen.
die. When you
That
print money, poor people die.
they do, and we're seeing it now, where medication costs have gone through the roof. As a result, people are not able to get their medication any longer. People are dying over this kind of thing, and
Absolutely.
so something dramatic has to happen. And yes, you're right. I My understanding was that we were going after the hardened
Hardened.
criminals
Yeah.
first, but that didn't leave out people that had just come across the border illegally. We heard the press secretary talk about, do you consider illegal aliens to be criminals? And she said yes. The very first thing they did was they came across the border. That is a criminal act. And so uh,
It's a tough one to
this is a
swallow.
tough one. However, this is also making me think a lot about American history, because what I'm seeing, for example, I'm seeing this in California right now, where so many of these uber rich people have lost their homes. Well, many of them had housekeepers, and
Yeah.
these housekeepers now are in jeopardy of being deported because
Mhm.
they're not legal. The whole town of Los Angeles runs on illegal aliens. It
Yeah.
really does.
So did my
And
Mexican restaurant, where my
and
prices are
this
going to
is it.
go up
And
now.
so now we're starting to see how much of that is really happening, and it is a
Right.
very large portion of that population. Well, you're hearing these people over there talking about how to protect their housekeepers, and how they've had this 30-year, 40-year relationship with these people, and they love them, and the people that work for them love the people they work for as well.
Yeah.
It's like family. This made
Yeah.
me start to think about what happened during American slavery as well. You see,
Indentured servitude.
we have this view that Alex Haley painted in Roots. And I tell you what, I remember really loving learning about slavery and the atrocities. Like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah. It's
But
awful.
now it's come out from Alex Haley. They buried this, but now you can see the interviews where Alex Haley is saying that most of what we saw in Roots was fiction. Alex Haley is from the mid. He's from the New England area. We're seeing also where Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, she's also from New England. How do these people know exactly what happened during slavery? The fact is that slavery has been Hollywoodized, and now we see it through their eyes. We don't see it exactly through history. I look at my own family, and I can trace my history back to the Hockaday family back in the 1840s in North Carolina. My great, lots of greats in there, grandmother, Caroline Hockaday, who was a slave, but also the daughter of the slave owner, Mr. Hockaday. I don't know his first name. However, I do know that I'm directly related to him. He's my great grandfather. And so that's part of my family as well. Now, Hockaday was dying, and he freed his slaves because I'm told that he did not want his slaves to end up being inherited by his other family members who were cruel slave owners. And so he freed them. They migrated from North Carolina all the way to Ohio and somehow were able to secure land in southwestern Ohio. And my grandmother's father, Walter, had this big farm, and they had something like 7 kids, and they lived on this farm and they loved it. My grandmother talks about what a wonderful time she had growing up. My question is, how could they have afforded that land? And the only thing I can come up with is that Father Hockaday must have given them money as well as their freedom paper. And that makes me think he must have really loved them or cared about them. They probably cared about him too. I think that maybe we need to relook at all of history and start to understand that what we're seeing in California with the housekeepers is probably a lot like what happened in slavery. Barry, we've all heard of John Brown, the abolitionist, right? I am doing some deep studies on that and finding out that there are forces from Britain that financed John Brown. And remember, he invaded an armory in Harper's Ferry and took it over temporarily. His goal was that once the slave population heard about this, that they would rally and rebel against their slave masters, murder them, and form this massive slave army and just take over. Well, that never happened. And why didn't it happen? Could it be that there wasn't this huge dissatisfaction like we've been told, much like what's happening in California right now? That there was actually, why did they call Uncle Tom Uncle Tom? Because they assimilated him into the family. Why was she Aunt Jemima? You see what I'm saying? Maybe we have a misconception of the totality of it. Was there whippings that happened and hangings and mistreatment? Of course, we know that.
Okay, let me inject here because I totally understand what you're saying. I like the other side of this. I'm sure you're 100% right that there was a lot of this, more benevolent kind of a mutual understanding. It's more of a work-employer relationship is what you're describing. But I also believe 100% the root stuff all happened based in fact. I think you could agree with that too.
According to Alex Haley, it was all fiction.
I don't believe Alex Haley then.
How could you not believe the author?
I'm not saying that he couldn't have made it up. I'm saying that those things.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. I do agree with you. Yes, they happened. But how much? How much of it happened?
My point is that it's almost every podcast. It's the same point. Two things can be true at the same
time. And I guess that's what my point is.
And a spectrum of those things. Now let's talk about, as you say, the housekeepers and stuff in L.A., compared to indentured servitude that kind of came out of slavery, which was just, you got your housekeepers now and those kind of things. They were always black. There was even a social status to that, just as there is in LA with your Latina or Latino housekeepers. There's still, you got to see a racial element to that. I mean, it's easy to see. Mm-hmm. Now, you know what this is 100% tied to, if you ask me? And this came to me like a week ago, listening to a podcast. Don't remember which one, but there somehow minimum wage came up in this. And boy, is that important. Because we are sitting here talking about filling a gap that is less than minimum wage. Then what is minimum wage for? It's really to keep, if you want to see the racial element in this, and I can, I could see how your black servants of whatever kind was a social thing for those white uh, plantation owners, and how the Hispanic maids and all of that in LA is also a social status. And what if we got rid of minimum wage? I mean, they talk about it's supposed to be a living wage. You and I've had the conversation about no, no, no. It's for like kids in
Yeah,
high
yeah,
school. It's a
exactly.
beginning. You're supposed to move on from there, and so there's an interesting dynamic now that you bring up. Okay, so what about this whole unspoken illegal status that we're not allowed to talk about, but is an essential part of the economy? What do we do with it?
Yes. Yeah, well, I that is really what my point is that as we take a look at our modern society, that there is a form of that type of slavery that's happening that is a benevolent form of that. Like they're not being forced to do this,
Mm.
but and yet there's a
It's an
benefit on both
opportunity,
sides. There's a
and
benefit for
they're
the
risking their lives to come over and do it.
and there's a benefit for the person that's actually the housekeeper, and there's a benefit for the person that gets their house kept. And so now we're rightfully destroying that. But yeah, how you talk about minimum wage, and
Do we
I'm sure
abolish
that
it?
these people are getting paid more than minimum wage. The real benefit is nobody has to pay taxes on this. It's all under the
Well,
table, right?
that's true.
Minimum wage, I think should be done away with. I don't believe in the concept of minimum wage. I believe in the concept of the free market. So if you have a restaurant that's paying X, and Bill has a restaurant across the street that pays more than that, well, hey, my people might want to go and work for the guy across the street. But if
Yep.
the guy across the street goes out of business because he's paying too much, those people are going to be right back over
We've
working for
seen
me
that.
again.
Hmm.
Right. And so let the market decide what the prices are. When the government comes in and starts demanding a wage, like you must pay this or you must pay that,
Yeah,
that's putting your thumb on the scale of the free market, and it never works out. It never
that's
works out.
true.
We've
That's
seen that
very
as well.
libertarian of you.
Oh.
It is. It's
I,
totally
I
about
I
free markets.
definitely, libertarianism is just logic, I think. And, logic works 99% of the time. Sometimes there are things that you have to take beyond logic. But yeah, it's just a logical thing. The free market system works,
Mhm.
it's the government fiddling around with the free market that's put us in the dire position that we're in right now.
Okay, let's put a cap on this with one last question for you. How are you feeling about how I'm shocked at about how this immigration stuff has been, along with everything else, warp speed. How are you? What are your thoughts and feelings on the progress there?
Well, I think that first off, we know the progress has been, yeah, it's been light speed, like you said, and I really believe that the strategy that Trump came in with is a shock and awe strategy, and that if he were to have done it at a snail's pace, that so many liberal activist judges would jump in and try to fiddle around with this whole thing. So he knew that he had to strike while the iron was hot, strike while his popularity level was at an all-time high, because those ebb and flow throughout the administration. And so I think what he's done has been really brilliantly executed so far, and I think it needs to happen, as we're seeing even at the border. That 93% reduction of people coming across the borders happened in literally less than 3 weeks. We're seeing now videos of Walmarts that have no one in them any longer. That's kind of mind blowing, because it's like, are you kidding me? Everyone that was at Walmart was an illegal alien. Now we're starting to see that the numbers that we've been told have got to be way, way diminished. There are way more illegal aliens in this country than we have been told. In
Sure.
fact, pretty much everything we have been told by our own federal government have been lies.
Oh
The
yeah, for sure.
statistics, the numbers, the amount of aid we're giving out, all of this stuff. And I say aid because all this kind of aid has to go to these people that have come across the border. We've been paying for that as taxpayers, and it's gotten to the point where, and this takes me to the next point of indentured servitude. It's caused us all to become indentured servants.
Yeah.
We are all having to pay for this thing, and now because of that, many of us are probably never going to be able to retire. We're
Right.
going to have to work the rest of our lives. The American dream has been taken from us.
Yes.
Big part of that is being able to own a house. So
Yes.
many of us aren't able to do that any longer. And so I really see what the Trump administration is doing is really trying to rescue the American dream, but they're going to have to do something about our debt-based monetary system, because those are the levers that the globalists have to control us. And we're going to see, in fact, we are seeing it. There's a war that's happening right now that we're all involved in. And it has to do with the globalist versus the nationalist. We are a nation, and they want to destroy this nation and absorb us and our resources and our money, all of that, into this global society. And we'll be wiped out, as a matter of fact. They
Mhm.
want to use us as chattel for this. And the levers that the globalists have is that they have the ability to manipulate our interest rates, and they also manipulate our banking system, and they can print money. And so and they control the hedge funds that control 90% of the businesses in this country. So we
Mm.
are in a situation where they have a lot of power, and we will have to make decisive and quick moves in order to outmaneuver them.
Mhm.
And we're at the tip of the iceberg right now. We haven't seen
Totally.
nothing yet.
Totally. Yeah, totally agree. Now that brings me to I can't get off this immigration thing because it leads to
It's a
two
big
other
part of
very,
everything.
very important points.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to forget the one I want to at least end with talking about the moral situation using El Salvador. There's a big issue right there for a prison. Basically, El Salvador is supposed to be our prison for all of these criminals. But first, I made a note about how this situation with the illegal immigrants reminds me a lot about, and I think that you listened to this, I'm not positive, the episode number 149, the Shawn Ryan show with
I did
former
not get to listen to that. No.
Okay, just quickly then. Former CIA analyst Sarah Adams, who everybody wants to interview these days, discussed significant national security concerns. She highlighted intelligence indicating that nearly 1,500 Al-Qaeda-trained terrorists are already inside the United States via the illegal immigration, planning attacks comparable to the Hamas assault on Israel. She emphasized that these operatives are poised to execute coordinated terrorist activities in 6 major cities all at once. And she said that it would happen. They would let it go as long as the border stayed open. It wasn't going to happen because if they could get to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 trained operatives, great, more the merrier. But as soon as the crackdown at the border happens, boom, that's when the terrorist activities are going to happen immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So it should have been happening like right now. Now, does this massive lightning fast sweep of illegal immigrants put a damper on those plans, a monkey wrench in that? I don't know. I just think that since I listened to that episode less than 2 months ago, I think it's worth revisiting and saying, come on, were we talking, was this real? Was that BS?
I don't think it was BS, and I've heard Shawn Ryan refer to that episode several times now because it was so popular. And I do believe that there are cells out there that are sleeper cells that are waiting to be awakened. I do believe that it is that we probably know where these are, but it's we've got bigger problems as well, because we know that the People's Liberation Army, that is the Chinese Communist Party's army, we're told that about 6,000 of them have come across the border, and that they too are in sleeper cells across the
Jesus.
United States. So can we mitigate all of that? I don't think we can. I think that the cat's out of the bag. We're trying to figure out how to put that in, but when I said we're at the tip of the iceberg, that's exactly what I mean, Barry. I think that there are devastating things that can happen here, and I believe that the administration that was elected, the Trump administration, the reason they were elected is because people, by and large, have been awakened to this. They fell into a woke stupor, but now they're awake, and we are seeing the results of that. We saw it at the polls, and now we're seeing the action. And I got to tell you, when I take a look at people like Pam Bondi, who just got confirmed, oh, hot dog, man. They are using the full force of our government to get stuff done. And I got to tell you, I don't think I've ever seen the United States get stuff done, our government, the
No,
way they have in the last 3 weeks. I've never seen it
no,
before. It's never
no,
happened.
never
I
heard
didn't
of it.
know that it could happen.
Dude, we never even talked about confirmations in the past. Now every one of these are under a big ass microscope because people are afraid.
Well,
Mainstream media wants to shut it down, man. And
Barry,
compare that to Biden's appointees, a lot of
listen,
cross dressers and stuff.
that's the thing. That's exactly what I was about to bring up, Barry. We're on the same page. It's like I look at like the RFK Jr. one, and then compare that to the person that was in there before.
Rachel
And like,
Levine, is that
yeah,
it?
like
Yeah.
we're trying to, like, Democrats, you're mad at RFK Jr. and you'd rather have uh Rachel Levine, really? And then you've got these people that are so qualified. Look at
Yeah, yeah,
Christy Nome,
yeah.
and all the terrible things that they're saying about her. Did you see the picture of her at the border on that horse with her cowboy hat on? She's surveying the
Is that a
border on
newer
this.
one?
Yeah, it just came out this week. She's down
Mm.
at the border this week surveying it. She's on a horse. Like
Yeah,
she's
yeah. She's North
she's
Dakota or South Dakota.
badass.
I think she's South
Yeah, she's
Dakota.
South Dakota.
She came on my radar about the first year of the Biden administration when she sent her troops. That
Down to Texas.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what she came in. I don't, this is a little personal thing. I don't like her Kardashian makeover. It really bothers me. I liked her when she looked like a normal, nice person.
Yeah.
I don't like that makeover, but I have always really, really respected her because I
Same.
think lights are on, everyone's home. I like that with all these appointees. It is amazing the stuff that Hegseth has gone
Yes.
through. Wow. I mean, they've really put him through the ringer. And I don't know. The guy's giving it all to for his country. So I'll take that. I'll take that
Well,
over a woke military any day.
absolutely. And when you take a look at the last person that was in that position, he was from the military industrial complex. He
Oh, yeah.
he worked for Northrop Grumman. He's one of the big wigs over there. So this is a whole different animal that's happening right now. And you take a look at Pete Hegseth and the fact that the first thing they did was get rid of DEI. Now you're seeing him in this position where we're talking about Israel and Gaza. And boy, I tell you what, Barry, that right there.
I was going to tell you, you can't by chance still see my computer, can you? My
I,
screen?
I see you. Yeah, I see you.
But I just clicked on the Gaza thing. Did you see that?
No.
Oh, okay, okay. Because you just started talking about it as soon as I clicked on it. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you're
whoa.
kidding me. That is weird.
Yeah, yeah. And I was going to just say, remind me, I don't want to forget to talk about that because that just happened and it's gigantic.
Yeah, like
News,
yesterday.
very volatile. We got to get to the healthcare stuff. There's so much there. But do you want to just get into that Gaza thing for a minute?
Well, I tell you what, Barry, I'm a little bit like I don't know what's going on there. I don't think anybody actually does right now.
Yeah, yeah.
This
That's kind of what I was
here's
thinking.
here's what I see with the Trump administration because I mean, Barry, this guy is playing cards. He's playing poker with these people. And
Chess, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and chess and 3D chess at the exact same time. I mean, this I love how he's playing this. He's almost like a Captain Kirk kind of strategist, right?
Mhm.
He's bluffing. Um, okay, so yesterday they meet Netanyahu and Trump. Was it yesterday or the day before they meet? And Trump makes this announcement that the United States is going to take over Gaza. We're going to rebuild everything. We're going to dismantle all of the unblown up bombs,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we're gonna and also recommending that the Gazan population temporarily leave that area so that we can rebuild the whole area. And now people's heads are just blowing up. I mean, just crazy blowing up because they're like,
I
wait a
know.
second, we're what are we doing here?
Well,
What is going
dude, I
on?
get it. I get it. The way he threw it out there in the first stuff I was reading, I was like, whoa, man,
I know.
bring it,
I've
reel
never
it
heard of
in.
anything like this before. I mean, this is unprecedented. I've never heard of anything like this before. But here's what I get out of it because you've got a lot of different factors that are happening out there. Number one is you've got Iran.
Mhm.
And Iran has designs on Israel. We know that. We also know about the fact that they're the state sponsor of terrorism. They're the ones that prop up Hamas and Hezbollah. They're the
Yeah.
ones that have nuclear ambitions as well. Trump is now got his focus on Iran. And I think that this whole Gazan thing that he's talking about has everything to do with us taking down Iran. Remember, Iran sent assassins into the United States to do away with Trump before the election. We know that now. And
Mhm.
we also know that Trump is saying this week that, hey, if I get assassinated, the orders
Uh-huh.
are that we blow Iran to smithereens. And
Right.
so I believe that the United States linking up with Israel in Gaza has everything to do with don't mess with this area because you're going to have the full force of the number one and number two militaries pointed right at you. And the fact is that we have got to stop Iran from getting a nuke because they are on the precipice of that. The Biden administration, we can see through the USAID that there was all kinds of money to finance this going over there. And so this is a this I believe this is all playing into this. The other thing too is that everything that's happening in Israel right now, there are some prophecy that's being fulfilled as we speak. There are biblical ramifications to this whole thing. Israel, from a biblical point of view, is the center of the world. And in the background, there are things that are happening that are completely biblical. And when we take a look at the Temple Mount, the Al-Aqsa flood has it has all that's what the Hamas calls it. This has biblical ramifications to what's happening. They actually are talking about the reason for the October 7th having everything to do with what was happening on the Temple Mount before that. And from now, the Temple Mount has a special place in the book of the Revelation where the new temple, the third temple, is supposed to be built. And there's some rumblings now that that Temple Mount, the area where the Holy of Holies is supposed to be underneath of that Al-Aqsa Mosque. That is the most holy place for the Jewish people as well. That is where the Holy of Holies used to be, where the temple was. Now, the funny thing, Barry, is that has to be built on the exact same site that it was before, and the Holy of Holies has to be exactly where it was. There's a reason for that out of the Bible. What I'm told is that what's been discovered is that the Holy of Holies is not actually underneath of that mosque. It is a few hundred yards away from that, which opens this up that the temple could be built on the same plot of land, and both of those buildings could share the same plot of land, which would open up biblical prophecy to for the return of Christ. This is not. This is all biblical stuff, but there's a battle between good and evil. That from a biblical point of view, our adversary Satan would not want that to come true because that spells the end for him. This battle, as we keep saying, the battle between good and evil, the current events that are happening today are painted on that canvas. And the moves that we're making in Israel right now are very, very interesting. And this thing that just happened, where the United States, the only other country that has a charter which says that we were created in God's image, and that as a result we've been given these blessings of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That country is now, right out of God's book, is now involved in this very same area in a big, big, big way. I say the two of us should keep our eyes on everything that's happening over there, because I think it's going to determine the outcome of everything.
All right, I'm not sure what to make of that. I'll keep my eyes open on it. I don't know what the
I don't know
hell
what
Trump's
to make of it
doing.
either.
I don't
think
have a
he
clue.
knows what he's doing. I think he
Yeah,
knows
we'll
what he's
see.
doing. Here's the thing. Everything I've seen so far, he's had a plan for. There's been nothing I've seen that was just willy-nilly that he did. Even things that he says that seem like, why did he say that? He seems to have a reason for everything, and it builds on to the other thing. And so based on his track record, I'd keep my eye on this stuff.
Well, I agree. Definitely going to keep our eye on it. I just want to mention at the end of the show, I forgot. When we lighten up at the end, I want to discuss the Grammys, Kanye and
Oh,
his
God.
sex bot, Beyonce
Jeez.
winning the country music album of the year.
Oh, well, that was a no-brainer, of course.
Of
She's a
course it was.
great country
And
singer.
I want to talk a little bit about Matt Walsh's Am I a Racist?
Yeah, I haven't
I
seen that
watched it.
yet.
Oh my God. I'll just tell you briefly. It took me 4 different sittings to get through it because
had a
it
hard
was so
time.
uncomfortable. Oh, I highly recommend it though.
What
But
made it so uncomfortable, though? Was it
we'll
because
talk
he's
about
going
it.
behind the scenes? Okay.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
pushing and pushing and pushing.
Well,
And,
that's how
and
60 Minutes used to make me feel that way.
what people were willing to go with. It was so ridiculous.
Okay, I can't wait.
And, oh my God. It was, yeah, I didn't take any notes on it. So it'll just be, off the cuff. So let's talk a bit about the healthcare stuff. I got a lot from a lot of different angles. I know you certainly do too. Lisa messaged us from LinkedIn about Dr. Mark Hyman, some of his posts. Now, I know him going back. Lisa used to work with him 15 years ago at the Cleveland Clinic. And I had talked a number of times about the documentary FedUp that Lisa and I went and saw. It was released about 13 years ago, roughly.
Okay.
And he was one of the consultants on it and played a big role in that show. That's where I first learned about in the 70s how our food industry made all these deals to, let's pump up the sugar and everything and tell everybody that fat is the problem. Make everything low fat, pump up the sugar content.
Right.
And all these things that got us on the road to obesity and the horrible food pyramid that we were taught in schools. It's hard to believe that, it seemed like such an innocent time when we were kids back then.
It really did.
All patriots. We believed and trusted our government above all else. I did for the most part up until 2020.
Yeah.
And so all of this is very disconcerting, but at the end of the day, it's time that we learn and we get on the other side of it. And I think that we are really getting there. Having RFK Jr. On the heels of being confirmed is just a dream come true.
It really is.
Beyond anything. And there were a lot of stats that I did want to share. How about if I start with the Mark Hyman thing? You chime in wherever you want. I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
the
This is
graphics.
really good. I was when I looked at this, thank you, Lisa, for sending this, by the way. When I looked at this, I thought, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we've been talking about. Wonder Bread, how American can you be?
Huh.
It's a pure, sweet poly purebred. You think of, Wonder Bread. What could be more wholesome than some good old fashioned Wonder
Let
Bread?
me back up for 1 minute, Merle, because what's interesting about this, what you're talking about, is it comes on the heels of a conversation you and I had maybe in our last podcast together, but where I said, you know what, I got this bag of chips, and when we used to eat chips when we were a kid, it's a totally different ball game from when we eat a bag of chips
Yeah,
today.
that's what was
And
so
that's what's
shocking
going on
about
here.
this is you did. I remember. I think it was the last podcast, and you
Seems
said
like so
this, and
long
then
ago.
and then I saw this, and I was just like, "Well, there it is." I mean, here it is, right here in front of us.
Read this off for people that
Okay,
are
so
listening and not watching.
okay, so here's the deal: is like we were kids, we used to eat all these things and all, and and now they're like, well, you can't eat this, and you can't eat that because it's bad for you. And you're like, but I've been eating this all my life. I ate it when I was a
Yeah.
kid, right?
Yeah.
And I'm fine, right?
Right.
But here it is. It's Wonder Bread. Back when we were kids, it was a wheat flour, it was water, sugar, yeast, salt, milk, and butter. See, I could read all those names that are in there, Barry, but now
Today, that sounds like the healthiest of health food.
yeah, right? Like that would be organic now.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. But now here's what's in your same bread. It's the same Wonder Bread, enriched bleached flour, water, high fructose corn syrup, yeast,
Death.
soybean oil,
Death.
salt, wheat gluten,
Yep.
vinegar, and calcium
Pro-
propionate
Pionate. Yeah.
as a preservative, monoglycerides, glycerides, I mean, monoglycerides. Wow, I wonder what that is.
Right.
Dicalcium phosphate,
Phosphate.
calcium
Calcium.
sulfate, ammonium sulfate. That
That
sounds
sounds really good.
bad. My mouth is watering. Sodium stearoyl lactate, calcium carbonate,
Datum.
datum, a dough container. What is it? It's datum
Conditioner.
in all caps, and then soy lecithin.
An emulsifier. Yeah, I mean, my God, this is what we're feeding our kids.
I can almost smell the
Yeah, yeah.
glycerol.
Yeah, right. The petroleum coming right off of that.
Right. Here, this one. Okay, Gatorade. Right, that's good because like football. Yeah, remember
Yep.
you need your what is it?
Electrolytes.
Brondo's got electrolytes, right? Like
Yeah.
he needs your electrolytes right here. So this has back then it had water, sugar,
In a glass
potassium,
container.
and lemon juice. Okay, so I remember when I first started playing football and they had Gatorade on the sideline, I thought I've arrived, right?
Yeah.
But then it was like you're drinking a lot of sugar because it is. It's almost all sugar back then, but now it's not just all sugar. Back then it was in a glass container too.
Yeah.
Now it's in
Everything's in plastic now.
plastic container, which of course we're getting crap out of that.
And estrogen. Increase in estrogen across the board.
Is that from the plastic?
Yes.
Oh my God, I
Mhm.
didn't know that.
Mhm.
Okay, so you got water, sugar, citric acid, natural, whatever that is.
Natural flavor.
Natural flavor.
I believe that.
Well,
Yeah.
before they had lemon juice, but now they've taken the juice out and now it's just natural flavor.
Oh, but
Yeah.
you haven't gotten to the good stuff yet.
I know all the stuff in bold sodium citrate and salt, whatever sodium citrate is, monopotassium phosphate.
Phosphate. It sounds like it's going to make you glow in the dark.
Phosphate, right? Modified food starch modified. Why is it why is anything modified in my Gatorade?
Yeah.
Glycerol ester of rosin. That sounds like plastic.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Blue number 1 and red 40. Well, okay, these dyes that there was no dye before, Barry.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
we know these dyes are giving us cancer.
You know what they're talking about all the time now are the Fruit Loops and our brightly colored Fruit Loops here. And you go
Yes.
right across the pond to Canada and they're the
All
dingy.
beige.
Yeah, because they're using food coloring and not not the red dyes that we all know cause cancer, and the 4,000 other harmful chemicals that they are allowed to put in
This
foods
is
in the
terrible.
America. Now, and we talked, I think you and I talked about, we make and export foods differently to other countries because
Yes,
they won't accept all of our death food.
that's exactly right. I
So,
mean,
let's go to the next slide. I forgot. Let's see where to go. Let me get rid of this one. Okay, that's Wonder
okay.
Bread and
Oh,
Skippy.
Skippy. Oh, man. And you know what? I love peanut butter. Why are you messing with my peanut
I
butter?
get all organic. There is an organic Skippy that is just peanuts and salt. I have it. I got
Wow.
it. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of hungry actually. But
Ah.
okay, so there it is. Skippy used to be in a glass container as well. All right, and glass doesn't give you all the stuff,
Mhm.
but here's what was in it. I mean, crazy that it was only peanut, salt, and sugar.
Like, what
Um,
else do you
yeah,
need?
you don't need anything. It's in a glass container. It was
Yeah.
fine. Why do we
Yeah.
need? Okay, now it's a plastic container. We've got roasted peanuts. Okay, so before it was peanuts, now it's roasted peanuts,
Uh,
whatever. Sugar, okay, that's the same. Hydrogenated vegetable oils. We talked about this in one of our
mhm.
previous episodes, how
Cottonseed,
bad this
soybean,
stuff is.
rapeseed. It's
Okay, so
seed
it's all the
oil.
seed oil. There it is. It's
Yes.
just all seed oil. And these
Horrible
are
poison.
horrible for us, right? And
Yes.
this is in your peanut butter is out to get you now. Oh, and
You
this.
talked about this before, I
I was
think.
saying, you know what? I used to love McDonald's fries. I mean, they were
They
so
were so
good.
different.
They were
They were
now
so different.
they don't even taste like potatoes to me anymore.
Ah,
They don't have the same smell or anything. I'm told that the place where they grow these potatoes is actually dangerous, and they're not allowed to touch the potato. Didn't we watch something recently where they said
yeah.
you can't?
Somebody, there was some foreign person came over to the United States and like spit out a McDonald's French fry and said, "Oh, but they're so much better in our country." The ingredients there before when we were kids: potatoes, beef tallow, which is just beef fat,
Right, and
and
salt.
salt.
I mean, perfect, right? Like what
Right.
again? What do you need? And I remember those being so good, but
They
now
were.
potatoes, great. I'm glad it's still potatoes.
At least you got
um,
potatoes,
yeah, okay, but vegetable oil. Here we go.
which are
We've
seed
got
oils today.
the canola oil, the corn oil, the
Yes.
soybean oil, is hydrogenated soybean
Horrible.
oil, the natural beef flavor,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah.
Wheat and milk derivatives, derivatives,
What?
dextrose, dextrose,
That's going to be a
sodium
form of sugar.
acid, phosphate to maintain color. We need
After
sodium
you
acid.
drown it in all those chemicals, you need
Yeah,
to
yeah,
colorize it
right. And
after it turned
there's
purple.
okay, there's some salt in there, by the way. There's
Oh,
natural beef flavor, natural, and again with the natural beef flavor, contains
hydrolyzed.
hydrolyzed
Hydrolyzed wheat. I
wheat.
don't know what that is.
This
And
is the thing.
hydrolyzed milk.
When you start seeing this kind of stuff, beware.
Oh,
Look at the ingredients. This is horrible. Why? And even the picture, like look at the two pictures. The
yeah,
one,
yeah,
it's like, oh, but then there these pale fries that they had to add
yeah.
sodium and phosphate to get them to kind of
Right.
look like the other ones. um, oh, closing the border will create a shortage of meth, heroin, and MS-13 and new Democrat voters. How about that? I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I have once again, I amassed all kinds of screen grabs from memes that I thought were really funny that I intend to just throw over top of us as we're talking intermittently. But this one, it's the men's room and women's room graphic, and it says, "Thank a straight person today for your existence." Straight pride. Think about
Wow.
that. You
Wow.
needed two straight people in order to be here,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
and
seriously.
now we're supposed to be prejudiced against straight people and call them cisgender.
Why the cis? I mean, it's so crazy,
Just to
Barry. And
try to make
I'm
you
just so
sound weird.
I'm so glad that we've got these executive orders now. One of them is that a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and that's it.
Isn't
That
that something?
I mean that's a pretty big one. Oh God, did you see this?
I
Trump
did. I did. It was so
Uh,
cringy. Got to
it
explain
really
it.
was.
Explain
This
it.
is the religious person that preached. I don't even want to say that she's a,
She's an
a
Episcopalian priest. Is she a
yeah,
priest? Is
I
that the?
guess a priest, yeah, or
She was
priestess,
horrible.
I guess.
There's nothing Christian about that
No,
woman
no, she gave a sermon that Trump was
at
at,
the
right,
inauguration.
and she just reprimanded him for being anti-Hispanic and
Right, right.
anti-person and all this, but none of it was
What
biblically based
bothered me is
whatsoever.
she said that there were lots of gay and trans people out there fearing in fear for their lives. Where are
Right.
they? Because
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people respond, I'm gay, I'm not afraid of anything here, I'm fine. So who is she speaking for? I think the woman's truly mentally ill.
Well,
I
she's an
really do.
activist. We did a little bit of research on her. She comes from money. Her
Uh,
net worth is in the millions, and she's a priest, which is odd. And she one of the things that really struck me was her talking about how we take for granted the people that cook for us or clean our dishes and
mm, mm.
or work in our yards and things like that. And I thought, well, I've cleaned dishes for a living and I've
Same. Yeah.
worked out in the yard for a living.
Uh-huh.
And
Same.
so like we go back to that slave discussion I was
Uh-huh.
talking about before,
Uh-huh.
and it's like, oh, it sounds like she's running a plantation over there. And she's going to reprimand anybody that thinks differently than her, and this is definitely is not Christian based. And then you have to look at what's happening in the Episcopalian Church. Where do they act? Is
I
everybody like
looked that
that
up
there?
too. I
Yeah,
looked
what
that
did you
up too.
find?
I don't remember the particulars. I think that you could probably speak to that right now, but there was something they're looked down upon for something like they strayed from
Yes,
Christianity or
they really
something.
did. They became very much like the United Methodist Church. It's very, I would say, almost leftist activist, that's
Clearly.
not based on the truth of Jesus Christ and the Bible, which causes them to be that's actually the definition of what a cult is.
Mm, mm.
It falsifies what Christ stands for as if it is the real thing. And when I heard her speaking, I heard that cult, and
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
interesting how that is easily mistaken for Christianity, and quite
Oh,
frankly, that is a dereliction of what the Bible says, and it is exactly what Christ said. It is wolves in sheep's clothing.
yep. I totally get that. Did you get by chance or have a chance to process? I sent you a YouTube video the night before last. I came upon this Christian, I say in quotes, Christian video that it was clearly AI derived, and it was about you won't believe this about black people. I'm
I
like, oh,
saw that. Yes, I did
and
watch that.
oh yeah, it was a half hour. I kind of had to skip through it because it was just pure BS, and it was about how black people are truly the chosen ones that are being oppressed. It was 100% a Marxist message, and it was cloaked in Christianity, meant
Isn't
to,
that something?
like water, weasel its way into a crack of some Christians and sharing this method. And I'm looking at some of the comments. A lot of the comments are like, "Oh yes, we are the chosen ones, and yes, we are, the best things and all this." And I commented on it that this is BS. It's racism, and it is meant to divide, and it's pure Marxism. And
Mhm,
I looked
mhm.
back the next day, my comment was gone. Um,
So interesting what you're bringing up right here, though.
Diabolical, though. That's
Oh, it
really
really is.
diabolical.
And this goes back to what we were talking about slavery, about how John Brown uh was sponsored by the globalists. And then when you look at the Communist Party that comes into being underneath of Lenin and how they targeted the United States, and that, the whole concept of communism is the bourgeoisie and the elites, but
Mhm.
it's the workers, the proletariats that rise up and they
The oppressed and the
share
oppressors.
everything, right? Exactly. But
Yeah.
that kind of thing didn't work in the United States. But what does work is our history of slavery and
Yeah.
using that, the whole root grassroots thing
Yep.
to cause a division between black people and white people, and look how well that's worked. And so the Communist
In the
Party, when
last
you take a
15
look at
years.
the Urban League and the NAACP, they were infiltrated by communism, and then they commandeered the civil rights movement. And you take a look into that, and you see like the Black Panthers, who were sponsored by very rich communists to come in and start race riots and things like that. This whole division in communism, and now bringing it right back full circle to your video that you shared, and how you can now use Christianity. And in the black community, Christianity at least was a very big source, but coming into Christianity and infiltrating it with the wolves in sheep's clothing, you can see what's happened and how devastating the effect has been to disunite us here in this country.
This brings me to another important point, and I just came along one of my memes that is right along the same things that we're talking about. When I go through Quora, I like to, I know. This is a meme, two photos of Adam Schiff, who I absolutely cannot stand.
I can't stand him
Most
either.
of us cannot. There's nothing likable about this guy. And the caption says, Adam Schiff visited Epstein Island 78 times. Repost. And the photos are absolutely ridiculous. And who doesn't want to believe that with this guy who I commented, and I've been on a quest of this kind. I commented on this, and I screen capped it for you here. And I said, he should be in prison for treason, possibly. But there's not a single record, let alone 78, that he visited Epstein Island.
I totally agree with you on
this. This is the kind of crap that is designed to make conservatives look like gullible idiots. Please don't be a gullible idiot. We have more than enough watching mainstream media.
That's so good, Barry.
Now, there was another one recently going through my...
Wait, can I just explain?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because there's a big thing. If you're not watching this, in the meme is a picture of Adam Schiff looking all ridiculous, but then right next to that is a picture of him wearing girls' baby clothes with a pacifier, which, is that a real picture? It's probably AI.
Of course not. Right.
But people are going to glom onto this and see this is what happened, and then we lose credibility this way.
That's the point.
And now nobody believes you. And go ahead.
A few days prior to that was scrolling through, and I see who doesn't hate AOC except her little tiny constituents, Alexandria, whatever, Cortez. And there was a similar picture of her, and it said, how does she get into Congress for 3 years and now she's worth $45 million? So I looked that up. Literally, the records state that she has a net worth of $20,000. $20,000.
That can't be.
Whatever. There's nothing out there anywhere that says
big swing.
45 million. So I did a similar rebuttal to that as well. I don't like sticking up for AOC.
No, you're sticking up for the truth.
But it is designed to bring out the mouth breathers in the conservative movement and make everybody look like fools.
Critical thinking skills, Barry. That's it. And you are a fan of truth. And so am I. I'm not for the Republicans or the Democrats or even America when it comes to the truth versus a lie. I'm going to take the truth every day. And boy, I tell you, Barry, I was having a conversation with my aunt yesterday, and we were talking about the fact, and we brought it up earlier in the show, that it's like, gosh, in our history, it's like everything we've learned or been told has been a lie.
Yeah.
And here's a big one, Barry, is what? Somebody just walked across my
the look on your face. I thought
is there a man in
I
my
thought
window?
A fly went by your eyes or something.
Okay, somebody's handing out stuff, and he just in my yard just walked past my window.
Okay.
Anyway, so the big one here is that we're looking at the FBI and the CIA being exposed. We wanted to bring up the JFK, MLK, RFK.
Oh,
thing.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing where where this USAID thing is, like I said earlier, it's been the finance arm for the CIA
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
conduct color wars across the world. In fact, since its inception in 1947, the CIA has displaced a third of the world's governments.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
and how do they do it? They do it through this funding mechanism, and it's diabolical, people. What happens? We saw early in the CIA's history where Guatemala was infiltrated by the CIA regarding the United Fruit Company. Guatemala wanted to take over the banana production in their own country. The CIA came in and killed off a bunch of people that were for this, and totally took over the banana production. In fact, that's where we get the term banana republic. And by the way, the United Fruit Company is now called Chiquita Banana. It's the same company. It was the CIA that murdered a bunch of people in order for us to have our United States interests taken care of. And now we're seeing the exposure of this whole, hey, America is this big charitable organization. First of all, charity is by definition has to come from an individual out of their own resources and
Yeah.
giving it in love. Charity and love are the things
Giving
that,
other people's money
but when you
away
give
isn't
somebody
charity.
else's money
Yeah.
away, which are
Yeah.
tax dollars, that's not
Yeah.
charity. And especially if it's for the interests of some type of business. And when you take a look at what's happening with the USAID and business and our government, Barry, that's the definition of fascism.
Oh, not only that, here's a nice little fact for you. They said this on the PBD podcast the other day. So they fact check things before they just go and blurt them out like that. But the one dude said 97% of the employees of USAID um, have give their money to the Democratic Party.
I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing why. Now, it's interesting that the CIA was given by the Trump administration the ability to, they're going to buy out a lot of those people in the CIA. They've offered them a buyout plan where they can be paid until September. We're going to see a bunch of those people get purged that are in the CIA. The idea is to line the CIA up with the Trump administration's agenda. We'll see what happens right there. The CIA are really, they're assassins, and so when you mess with the CIA like this, I am quite certain they are the ones that are behind the death of JFK and MLK and RFK. I believe the FBI was also involved in this, and now that the executive order is out to expose all the redactions, all the things that our United States government has been hiding from us around those three men. I think it's going to be very, very interesting what we find out. And I think what we're going to find out is that the stories we've been told are diabolically different than what really happened here.
Well,
What's your thinking on
I
this?
think I think everything's going to be so largely redacted that we're going to be left with as much doubt and as much mystery as we already
Well,
have. I hope I'm wrong on that.
I hope you are too, because the executive order is actually to completely undo all of the redactions. That's what the order is, and now that we're seeing these executive orders in action, for instance, the whole DOGE thing and how they're able to get the information out of the USAID. I believe that same principle is going to happen around this JFK, RFK, MLK thing. Keep in mind, too, that you've got RFK Jr. on the side of Trump right now, and he's been gunning for this information. Gunning, that's no pun intended. But the fact is that he himself has already been saying that he knows it was the CIA and the FBI that were behind this. So I think what we're going to find out is that is the truth, but it's going to name names, and we're going to see who's behind it. Not confidentially. On the same token, my grandfather, Merle McCurdy, was assassinated back in between MLK and RFK. He worked for RFK and was a contemporary with MLK. And I am hoping that this information will lead to the discovery of who was responsible for his death as well. It's a big hope, but we'll see.
Is a big hope. Yeah, we will see. So I pulled up a meme of Fauci, a picture of Fauci, and it reads, "The pardon stops federal crimes, but not state crimes."
That's correct.
Every conservative state should prosecute Fauci at the state level for crimes against their citizens. Repost if you agree. I think that dude needs to be held accountable somehow, some way.
Well,
For sure.
absolutely. And it's funny, the pardon that happened, because I remember everybody was so pissed off when it happened, Barry, me included. But then when I thought about it more, I quickly came to the realization that that doesn't pardon him from any state prosecution. And the fact is now that rather than one federal prosecution, he could be looking at prosecutions from up to 25 different states that could put him in prison, each one for a lifetime. Mm-hmm. And I take a look at, for instance, my Aunt Marion Sheridan, who is being the state of Michigan has gone after her from the 2020 election of Trump. She was one of the Republican Electoral College representatives, and they put in their slate for Trump, and now the state government has gone after her. She's looking at life in prison right now, and now that Trump is in office, he can't pardon her.
He can't?
No, because it's the state's going after her, not the federal government. And so I was fully aware that this was going on. But now we look at people like Pam Bondi, who is going after these different states that had gone after Trump, like Letitia James. She's going down.
Good.
That what's all those other people, Pam,
Alvin,
they're
Alvin
all
Bradley,
Alvin Bragg, and
Bragg.
then the woman down in the whole thing in Georgia. They're all going down because what they did was highly illegal. Their careers.
Thank God, dude. I never thought that any justice would be had. You remember Hillary getting away with everything?
Oh yeah,
Trump did nothing about that when he got elected, despite the promises. I didn't think anything would happen.
Well, now we're seeing it. But here's the deal is in Michigan, the Trump administration and really the federal government gives all kinds of aid to Michigan. They could just cut that off. Look at what's happened over the last few days here when you see this whole thing where you've got the tariffs out there and the tools that Trump is using right now. Mexico raised their head. No, they've caved now. Panama caved. Colombia caved.
Yes.
Venezuela's caved. China's panicking. Canada caved. Go ahead.
I'm worried about something with Mexico. Like he also just prior to that, I don't want to use the wrong words, but I want to say he declared war on the cartel. And then he gets what's her name from Mexico to cave on
Scheinbaum.
On this. So now she's to send troops to basically go to war with the cartel. The cartel, as we know, really is said to have more power than the Mexican government in running Mexico. What is going to happen here? Are we going to go to war with Mexico in that evil ass cartel?
I think that we're already at war with the cartel, Barry. As you take a look at what they've actually been doing, they've been kidnapping our people. They've been sending fentanyl into our country. We've had over 100,000 deaths a year. They personally have been murdering hundreds of thousands of people in our country. So we're already at war with them. It's a different kind of war, but it's what we've had. We've had more casualties from them than we've had in the past 4 years than we did during the Civil War. And that was the biggest war we had. Go ahead.
As you bring that up and put it that way, then I guess what we just did was join forces with the Mexican government to go to war with the cartel. And the Mexican government is like, oh, hell yeah, we will go to the war with the cartel with the U.S. government on our side.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And remember during the Mexican election that happened a year ago, how many of those candidates were assassinated while they were running while
Right.
they were running. Here's a great article right here. Mexican authorities arrest cartel leader after Trump pressures government to crack down on cartels. This is from the other day. A high-ranking leader with the cartel Del Nostra has been arrested in Mexico. He was identified as Ricardo Gonzalez Suaz, something. Also, let's just go with this. Also known as El Ricky. The fact of the matter is that they arrested this guy and gunfights started breaking out all over town because they work for this guy, right?
Wow.
But now that Trump has put the executive order out there calling them a terrorist organization, now we have access to our military that can go in and can take these suckers down. And I mean, that's what we're going to see. We're going to see America finally fighting back in a war that we've been involved in for years.
It's a really good way to put it.
And so it's not that we're declaring war on them. They already declared war on us a long time ago. We just have decided to ignore all the casualties.
As I think about it, after what you added to it, we kind of did leapfrog back and forth there. I'd have to say that I'm excited by that. I love going back to the Cilantro Taqueria, my Mexican restaurant from the beginning of the show. I love Mexico and I love Mexicans. I really do. They're the friendliest, hardworking people. They're the nicest people. I love beautiful Mexico. Oh my God, I love it. And has not felt safe to me in a very long time. So, hey, I hope
this is going to cause Mexico to be so much safer.
I hope that we just have develop a better kinship than ever before. I hope all the best comes out of this, and I'm hopeful for it.
I am too, because really there's a storm that's happening and we've got to calm the storm. Like you said before, the Mexican government hasn't been running Mexico for a long time. It's been these cartels, and we have to, that's evil, and we have to destroy the evil because it is literally eating people alive. All the people that have been kidnapped into sex slavery, we haven't even talked about that.
Nope.
Kids in sex slavery, tunnel systems at the border to steal people, actually humans as slaves, into sex slavery and all kinds of other atrocities. It's high time that
it's like we're not allowed to talk about it.
And this doesn't have anything to do with love of Mexicans or not. I mean, there are Mexicans here in this United States that are citizens that are all for this because people threaten their families, their kids, their wives, their husbands, their jobs, their livelihood, everything about it. Citizenship in the United States is under attack. And by the way, I love the birthright citizenship thing that Trump reversed, although it is being stayed by a federal judge right now. The 14th Amendment does not promise citizenship to people born in this country illegally, because it says there's a little clause in there that these people are going to have trouble with, which says, and under the jurisdiction thereof. People that come from another country that have no citizenship here, that have children, those people are not under the jurisdiction thereof of the United States, and therefore they're disqualified from citizenship. That's what's in there. And they want to change what it means, but that's what it means. And so I am so glad that the truth is finally prevailing here in this country.
Very nice. Very nice. Another meme here, and this one kind of leads into something else. It's of a old white Jeep Cherokee. The caption says, "I renamed my Jeep Elizabeth Warren. It's white, but it says it's a Cherokee." Dude, that makes me think of coming back to the healthcare thing that we barely have had a chance to touch on. Did you see this clip with Elizabeth Warren? And let's
where she's just screaming at RFK.
Dude, what she's doing is going to bat.
Sue the pharmaceutical
Yeah,
company.
he's saying you can't. She's saying you can't. I want you to swear that you're not going to sue the pharmaceutical company.
No.
It was divulged again. I think it was the PBD show that she received 67% of her funding from the pharmaceutical industry. Right. And they made a good point too. Can you imagine the chewing out that these people have gotten right before that they went out there?
That was a good point.
Yeah, you better.
In fact,
straighten this shit out, or
It was a mirror, I think, as you take a look at Elizabeth Warren's face as she is just
do that.
So angry.
Trump
it was a
asks
mirror.
you to, quote, clean up.
I'm sorry. I want you to finish your thought.
It was a mirror of what she had received probably only moments before she came in there. So
exactly. Here's a minute or two.
Corruption and conflicts. Sounds great. You've said that you will, quote, slam shut the revolving door between government agencies and the companies they regulate. That also sounds great. So here's an easy question.
Kind of funny.
Will you commit that when you leave this job, you will not accept compensation from a drug company, a medical device company, a hospital system, or a health insurer for at least 4 years, including as a lobbyist or a board member?
Can you just repeat the last part of the question? Can I commit?
You're not going to take money from drug companies in any way, shape, or form.
Who? Me?
Yes, you.
Oh. Yeah, I'm happy to commit to that.
Okay, good. That's what I figured. I said it's an easy question to start with. And I think you're right on this question.
I don't think any of them want to give me money, by the way.
Let's keep going. You're right because to say yes, because every American has the right to know that every decision you make as our number one health officer is to help them and not to make money for yourself in the future. So I want to talk more about money. I'm looking at your paperwork right now. In the past 2 years, you've raked in $2.5 million from a law firm called Wisner Baum. You go online, you do commercials to encourage people to sign up with Wisner Baum to join lawsuits against vaccine makers. And for everyone who signs up, you personally get paid. And if they win their case, you get 10% of what they win. So if you bring in somebody who gets $10 million, you walk away with $1 million. Now, you just said that you want the American people to know you can't be bought. Your decisions won't depend on how much money you could make in the future. You won't go to work for a drug company after you leave HHS. But you and I both know there's another way to make money. So, Mr. Kennedy, will you also agree that you won't take any compensation from any lawsuits against drug companies while you are secretary and for 4 years afterwards?
Well, I'll certainly commit to that while I'm secretary. But I do want to clarify something because you're making me sound like a shill. I put together that case. I did the Science Day presentation to the judge on that case to get it into court.
Mr. Kennedy, it's just a really simple question.
Yeah.
You've taken in $2.5 million. I want to know if you will commit right now that not only will you not go to work for drug companies, you won't go to work suing the drug companies and taking your rake out of that while you're a secretary and for 4 years after. It's just
you'll be committed to not taking any fees from drug companies while I'm secretary.
No, I'm asking about fees from suing drug companies.
Okay, that's enough. Look, I got to tell you, I have been so fried over the whole idea that drug companies can't be held accountable for putting poison in the bodies of every American citizen and want it mandated to do so.
I mean, when you take a look at Dr. Fauci, who has been receiving funds from patents on drugs.
Yes.
That from the pharmaceutical companies. Well, they weren't mad about that.
Yeah,
So
but you
why are they
can't be
mad
held
about
accountable.
this?
This side's good, that side's bad.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. The side that Elizabeth Warren gets paid on, good, but then the other side, ridiculous. This is the swamp. This is the swamp that we're dealing with. And by the way, if you haven't read the book, The Real Dr. Fauci by RFK Jr., highly recommend that.
Everyone says that.
It's not an easy book to get through, but I tell you what, after you read that book, your eyes will be open to what's really happening with these pharmaceutical drug companies.
The single biggest thing?
What's that?
Is that he's never been sued by them.
And
or libel,
also, I
defamation
love
of character, because he can't.
this is the thing is during the hearings for RFK Jr. there was that, are you a conspiracy theorist? And the
that.
answer
I
to
heard
that was so awesome, where he brings up several examples of where he
They
was
all
called a
came
conspiracy
true.
theorist. And now the FDA is personally saying, yep, this one is, they're not saying RFK Jr. was right. They
Right.
they leave that part out.
Right,
but,
right.
but they're confirming all of the things he's been
Yep.
called a conspiracy theorist for. So I say,
Exactly.
I mean, the other side has been changing definitions for a long time. I think we should change the definition of conspiracy theory to be, what is a conspiracy theory? Truth. I mean, because that's what it's coming out to be. All the conspiracy theories are turning out to be the truth.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's see what else. I had so many things here, and I'm trying to fly through them. Got the Gaza Strip. That's still weird to me. I think we have very incomplete information.
No, we're not gonna. This is like fog of war stuff on Gaza. And I really think that this is a misdirection play right here. I kind of love that kind of thinking.
I just wanted to share this very quickly, a quick conversation on this, because we're going to have to wind up very soon.
We are.
One of the many healthcare podcasts that I've come across in the last week or so, about 5 different people. I don't know if it's probably inspired by the RFK thing, and which is just wonderful. This guy, Paul Saladino, PBD did an interview with him. He's an amazing nutritionist, and he talks a lot about the carnivore diet and all that. But he talked about how sugar, that podcast was terrific, and it was, I'm looking for the number or something, whatever. His name's Paul. Think Salad and Saladino. But he's a very interesting and well-known nutritionist. He quoted a few stats that I was trying to get from chat, and I didn't quite get them, but he said something about 70% of the food stamps monetary value goes towards high processed foods. We give out welfare, they purchase highly processed foods, which leads directly to health problems, which is crippling the healthcare system.
Absolutely.
And he said 10% of that goes to soda, which is absolutely horrible. And then, as he says, single ingredient foods. I love that term. Hadn't heard it before, but that would be chicken, lettuce, onions, all the things. Single ingredient foods is what we should be eating, whole foods, but it takes preparation. They are also, hate to say it, more expensive. But he said, if we could purchase, first of all, if food stamps would go towards single ingredient foods, that'd be wonderful and unburden the healthcare system immensely. For the rest of us that pay taxes, if we were to be able to purchase single ingredient foods with pre-tax income, it would be huge. It would be a game changer.
That would be huge. That would be a tremendous game changer, because he's exactly right. I mean, take a look at when we go to low income areas and you're like, well, these are the poor people, but they're all obese. Yep. And it's because of this.
We all are. And it is because of that. So I absolutely love this, I'm forgetting so many terrific stats that he had. I highly encourage everybody to look up the PBD podcast with Paul Saladino. It is a huge eye opener, and it's 2 hours of just fact after fact, eye opening facts. One of them I remember is every form of sugar. We think, well, at least if we see sugar, cane sugar or something like that, that would be okay. He says every form of sugar that you see on the ingredient list, of course, we know how horrible high fructose corn syrup is, but he says all the other sugars, if it's in honey or something like that, then your body can recognize it. It's surrounded by all these other natural chemicals that your body is used to, and it produces it accordingly. As soon as the sugar is stripped out, your body doesn't know how to recognize it.
Right.
So keep that in mind in all forms of sugar. So we have a serious problem with sugar of all kinds in this nation. There'll be at least 10 other things that I think about after we get off this podcast, I am sure. There's another guy, Brecka. I forget where I saw Gary Brecka. He was in the life insurance. He was in a life insurance gig, because they're all about being able to predict somebody's mortality rate down to a month. and he explained how because of diet, and then you get one injury, then you get put on a pharmaceutical. It's just a process that they're all very well aware of. And I don't even remember where I saw that podcast because I've been ingesting so many of them. But I wanted to just leave. I wish I was more prepared on those ends. There was an awful lot.
It's an amazing thing that we're looking at as far as food products are concerned. And I think we should hit on this probably every time because there's so much to learn. I mean, and I think there's a lot of fake stuff out there too that we have to look out for.
Yeah.
The other day I saw one where it said Girl Scout cookies are causing Alzheimer's, and I started looking into that, and I'm like, first I was like, how diabolical? How can you resist a Girl Scout cookie, right? And,
right.
And then I started thinking, is this even true? I have no idea. I couldn't verify it. I don't know if it's true or not, but it sounded really horrible. And that's the thing. Who has time to look up all of these things and study all of these things? So, we should do a slow drip on these things. And I love that you came back on the hearing aid thing and corrected that whole thing because we got to do that. We got to come back and revisit things and take a look at them. The fact is there's a lot of information out there, but it does mean that it's possible we could get some things wrong. But the fact is we're on a mission to find the truth, and sometimes we've got to take some side roads to get to the truth, but that's what our aim is. And I think
and it is. And along those lines, I appreciate what you said. Along those lines, I'm going to share my notes just for a quick moment because I wanted to say we got out of the World Health Organization immediately on January 20th. We dropped out in 2024. We paid $1.28 billion to the WHO. China paid $157 million. And they have 1.41 billion people, and we have 335 million people. You see how those are juxtaposed completely?
Yes.
Flip-flop. China has more than 4 times the U.S. population as the U.S., and we were spending way more than four times what China was on WHO. So that was just... that was so overdue to be corrected. All of these things. There was something that I wanted to ask you, Merle, about that Omar chick was talking about how the USAID stuff unconstitutional, about in different but similar circumstances about Musk and the DOGE going after and shutting down some other foreign aid, different aid. Trying to make things more efficient. They're saying all over the place. The leftists are saying this is unconstitutional. He's unelected. He's a bad president. They're all in unison. The collective's all in unison on the bad president thing, trying to get at Trump with an ego shot in the arm, saying that Musk is the real president.
Right.
And first of all, here's my question to you: are these things unconstitutional?
No. They're not. This is a bureaucracy, and bureaucracies make decisions all the time without any input from any of us. And so we see where the CDC does it all the time. We see where every other bureaucracy does. People are trying to say, well, DOGE, it was just created by executive order. It's a new bureaucracy. That doesn't matter either. The president can put that together. Remember Homeland Security, that happened as well. However, DOGE is actually a bureaucracy that's been renamed. It was another name before this. They just renamed it and gave it another mission. So they did not create a new bureaucracy. And he's got every right. There's no constitutional restriction on looking under the rocks of our spending and exposing that to the people, because it's supposed to be government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But if we don't know where our tax dollars are going, how is that government of it, by, and for the people?
Man, they forgot about us a long time ago. So regardless of all the major things that have been upended, and it's really wonderful to see, boy, we still got all that money in politics and all of these lobbyists that truly run Washington.
Well, here's what we're going to see, Barry, is that here's how I'm seeing it is that funding mechanism that's been coming directly from the government into the coffers of all of these elite politicians is now being cut off. And as a result, people's heads are blowing up. That's what we're seeing. A war has been declared. There's many wars that are going on. This is one of them, is that this parasite of a government that's been overlaid on our constitutional government has been funded illegally for many, many years, and they're very powerful as a result. Now we've cut the gasoline to that mechanism off, and now we're going to see desperation. We're already seeing it. We saw a little bit of it right there with the RFK Jr. thing. We're going to see desperation because they've got to win that off because their oxygen supply has been cut off, and they're going to do desperate things in order to make that happen. We talked about sleeper cells. We may see that. We could see any number of things. Look what they were doing with those drones and trying to make us believe that they were UFOs. They are willing to do anything to cause us to fall in line with their deception and their lies.
I totally agree with that.
But now we're defanging them because it's the money that's caused them to have this kind of power. And I love what's happening. I think it's the right thing to do. Back to the money source. We've got to do something about their ability to print money. And once we do that, we're going to be able to take our freedom back.
Is it possible? I've wondered this a lot. Man, you keep following the breadcrumbs back, you're eventually going to get to the hedge funds.
That's right.
And since they own everything, they're diversified over everything, every industry. So can they be a monopoly and therefore face antitrust laws? I would think so.
They absolutely can. And I remember my father worked for AT&T, and so he went through that whole divestiture, and it was
Ohio
very painful. Bell. Right, exactly. They broke up the baby bells. Well, it's because that's where all the antitrust laws come from. And so that's what has to happen. They are a monopoly. It's anti-American. It's actually fascism that's happening. We have foreign entities that are actually controlling our very environment here in the United States. That's an invasion. And so that has to be cut off at the source. And the source is our money supply. And that's what we need to. The bottom line, Barry, and just to cut to the chase, is we've got to go back to the gold standard, gold or silver standard, so that we can't the globalists can't fudge this fake money into our society, because that's exactly how they've destroyed other civilizations and societies over the last several hundred years.
Well put. Well put. Okay, let's start winding up, and I want to remind everybody to wait and listen to Mark's DEI, do-it-yourself AI tip of the week. I get a lot out of them, and actually he and I are working on a project as we speak, something altogether different. But boy, am I a proponent of AI. I use it all day, every day, and your skill set grows with it so much. And he and I were talking the other day. Because I was telling him about my conversation with my mother. I signed her up for ChatGPT, the free version, months ago. Of course, she hasn't used it. I'm sure other people out there are in the same boat. And she goes, well, I don't know what to do. And I said, ask it. And there's my point. With chat, I have conversations with chat every day. And I got to the point just a couple of weeks ago where I was like, man, I got so many files on so many different clients and personal things. How do I organize it? And it goes, oh, well, I simply can make you a canvas of something, and then you can designate projects and you can put them on certain canvases. And I was like, oh, holy crap, put this on a project on this canvas. And he's like, okay. And that's all there was to it.
Amazing.
And so I told my mom, I said, just go on there and say, hey, I'm really intimidated. I don't know what you are. I don't know what to do. And it will take it from there. It'll ask you, oh, well, I'm this. And what would you like to know about? It'll prod you along and you will have a wonderful conversation. Anyway, so that's that. As we wind up here, Merle, I want to talk about the Grammys a little bit. There was Kanye and his slave. I would say it's a manipulated person. And then there was Beyonce winning country music album of the year, which to everyone's surprise. And then finally, I'd like to just talk a little bit about Matt Walsh's Am I Racist? Do you have thoughts on those Grammys?
Well, I never watch them.
Me either.
A long
just
time ago,
read an
I
article.
stopped caring about the award shows in Hollywood. It's
Yes.
just self-aggrandizement.
Yes.
And I that doesn't do anything for me. But every year when these awards come out, they go further and further down the dark hole of just decadence. And these, it started out with what you're wearing on the red carpet.
Always.
It's just become more and more outrageous until now you just show up naked, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I can answer my own question on this, but I think all of us think, well, if I came naked, I'd be arrested.
Right.
But this is their own little community where these kind of things are encouraged so that it gets more eyes, more controversy, the better. That the ratings suck. I understand the ratings keep going lower and lower, so they got to do whatever they can.
You would think that with all of the P. Diddy stuff going on in the background, they would, tone that down a little bit, because I'm telling you, these people are all involved in that. It seems very obvious when you watch these award shows that these people have a whole different set of moral character than most people in the world. They are on a whole nother level. And now all the stories that have been coming out about this P. Diddy thing, and even back to the Jeffrey Epstein thing, seem a lot more plausible as you look at them fighting. It seems like they're doubling down on their decadence, and it's like now it's very easy to believe that all of these things are probably true.
Yeah, I totally agree. Then there's Beyonce with the country music.
Talk about racism.
Yeah, well, the thing that gets me is that side loves to, condemn everybody, cancel everybody, ruin your lives over cultural appropriation. And there's Beyonce walking, living cultural appropriation. Now
exactly.
Now it's country. Are you kidding me? You got your blonde wig, your bleached skin, and I mean, geez.
It's racism. That's all it is. And I mean, can you imagine like a white person winning the rap award for like, this is the best rapper
as
ever?
You say that, wouldn't Eminem be in that category?
Yeah. Did he get the Grammy for the best? I don't know. I mean, I think just him being up there was enough controversy alone. But yeah, I mean, like all of a sudden every year, like a white person takes it away. I think people would be yelling racism on that.
Where you never heard anything about this, anything bad was, and I just thought of this now, was the dude from Hootie and the Blowfish. The singer, the black guy.
Yeah.
He went country. He's done great. And he's got a beautiful voice, but he's not. It's not this.
He's actually a country singer,
genuine,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Beyonce is not a country singer.
Yeah.
That doesn't compute.
There was a lot of stigma. I read a bit of an article on this, which is why I brought it up. There's something of a meme about, who went up? Somebody went up and said something like 3 times, some kind of a smart ass kind of a music person. Oh, girl, I remember that much. But thanked Beyonce three times. And it was said that it's become a thing. Everybody goes up and has to thank Beyonce, like kissing the king's ring.
Kiss the ring, yeah.
Yeah, So ridiculous. She was gifted this award, it seems. But now,
it's all woke.
So the Kanye thing with, I can never remember that girl's, his girlfriend's name, but she seems totally like, to me, she's under mind control. Does she have parents? Does she have a family out there that's concerned? Serious questions.
I mean, seriously, if my daughter did that, I would be so horrified.
Well, I think you would call authorities, man. You would. I mean, it just doesn't look right. She's got a real dead look in her eyes, and I don't know. I just I just don't know. And Kanye's insane, man.
Well, and you know what's crazy about that too is that it's something I was thinking about Kanye when he came out with his Heezus thing, where he's a Christian and he's out preaching the word, and he out there, on a pedestal talking about Jesus. And as a Christian, I think it's great that he became a Christian, but then to put him on this pedestal where now he's the authority on Christianity is dangerous. He doesn't know, he doesn't. I think it's great for his testimony, but to look at him as now a teacher of Christianity, look what he's done. He's not that. Come on, Christians, do better here. This is bad.
He's got a strange pull on people. I remember we talked about him a year or two ago, and I said, and I still believe this now. We know that it's said that he is bipolar, and he's gone off his meds for the most part. And I said, and I believe this. He seems to have a really good talent for reining, like when he's on his manic periods. He's really productive. He really uses it. And he seems good at hiding when he's in his depressive. Just getting out of Dodge.
That must be it. Yeah.
During his depressive times. Yeah. And people, I don't know, his followers just seem to really, really soak into this thing. And I don't understand it.
I don't get it either.
I told you back then, I was over my mom's one time. I had my laptop out. We were talking about this phenomena. And I said, let's pull up Kanye's greatest hits. I pulled up Kanye's greatest hits on YouTube. And we listened to about 30 seconds of each. And there's like 10. And dude, every one of them, you're going to be like, how that? No, you're just going to be like, how the hell could this get big mainstream? This is awful. Dude can't sing.
Well, back to the P. Diddy thing again. How did these people were rainmakers, right? Like if you got in with P. Diddy, then you could be a star. Yeah, and that doesn't mean that they had talent. It just means that they passed.
There's a snowball.
The tests, and then you have to wonder how did. And you're hearing this big time in the rap community that's how this is. It's disgusting, but that's how this is happening. And it just makes you question the whole thing. Like, how did Taylor Swift get to be such a this mega star? I mean, I personally, I don't get that either. But it seems like the people that are like the Grammy Award winners, could that possibly be our greatest talent in the music industry? Not. They're all bought and paid for.
They are, and the music industry's behind
the words and everything. It's all manipulated, and these people are willing to play that game.
Yeah.
And so they're owned. It is almost like that's another plantation. Although they get paid a lot of money, it's still, they're trapped in it. They're trapped.
It's a good point. I'll say this. Taylor Swift, always wondered, I don't follow any of that music, so I wondered the same thing. And not too long ago, I went on YouTube, I looked her up, and I found this NPR concert that she did. It was just her and a guitar, and then there was a piano. It was just her playing solo, no backup band, no backup singers, no auto-tune. She was very impressive on both the piano and guitar. I'm not saying that she's not
talented.
Yeah. So anyways, I get that. And I'm going to say about the Kanye thing, and I'm going to leave it with this. I'm admitting that I'm an old, dumb white guy. I said I cannot figure out how those things got so popular. Going through 30 seconds of each of his greatest hits with my mother, we're like, no idea how. But, and this is where the conversation came from with my mother. I said, but so many people who I respect, great intelligent, really intelligent people on podcasts, a lot of them, including Lex Friedman, calls him a musical genius.
Okay.
So there's something I'm missing, and I admit I'm totally missing it.
I feel like when it comes to music, it's to each his own. You know what I mean? Like, okay,
yeah, but boy, am I missing
genius. What? How do you? I don't know what exactly musical genius means. So I'll let him, believe that he's a musical genius because I don't know what the plumb line is on that. I don't know.
All right.
I just don't know.
Okay.
It's funny though.
I do too. It's an interesting conversation between you and I. I mean, it is. So I'm just going to say about Matt Walsh's "Am I a Racist?" I've been dying to see that for so long because I've listened to him on podcasts talk about it and stuff, and so I kept waiting to see if it would come out on Amazon Prime or something, and it still hasn't. It's still only available on the Daily Wire. So I signed up for a month. I paid $15 just to see it. And I like I told you, it took me 4 times to get through this hour and a half special because it made me so uncomfortable. And so why do you ask? Is because he goes on. First of all, he's really good. It's like the Borat style. If you've ever seen Borat, I don't know.
Yes.
And he just puts on that silly wig and goes and infiltrates these leftist programs. There was
amazing.
It was amazing. There's one, I can't remember the woman's name, but if you have anything to do with the left whatsoever, you know she's like the queen of the left, and about how white people are so oppressive and so terrible. That's what it's all about: is white people being oppressive and terrible, and the white guilt. And all of these people and their white guilt, like, oh my God, get a brain. But he had this woman, I guess I should not give anything away, but he presses and presses until he gets people to do the wildest things. And you can't even believe it. He, in this one, he put on a seminar. It was brilliant how they got this seminar together and had all these people come about am I a racist and how to be anti-racist. And he kept pressing to the point to see when people would walk out. That's why I was so uncomfortable. It was amazing. And he finally came out with whips and said, we're going to flog ourselves for being racist. No kidding.
Did people do that?
I'm not giving any more away.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Dude,
actually.
It was crazy. There were also some moments when he went into some really right. I'll give this much away. He went into some hillbilly area, like, I don't know, it felt like Mississippi or something, to a biker bar, dressed like that, and talking about, like, well, how can you put up with your own white supremacy, and
right?
Saying all of the stereotypical things. And these guys, like, some could barely talk. They're just so backwards and all, but still going to, what the hell are you talking about?
I gotta see this.
Dude, yes, you do. I would love to talk with you about it on this show.
That sounds really, really awesome. I can't wait.
Canceled after the month. I just canceled today.
Oh, that's how you did it. Okay.
Yeah. So I paid $15
sign up for Daily Wire, and then you can see that. I got you. Very cool.
It was worth it, man. I mean, dude, Matt Walsh has talent.
He really does. I really like him. He is really something else. Hey, Barry, there is one news article that's actually breaking news I wanted to just throw out there before we wrap it up. But I think this is actually
breaking every 4 hours.
Crazy. But it is the Biden administration funded Politico to run anti-Trump. It's shocking, but perhaps not surprising that the Biden-Harris administration used USAID, the agencies whose purpose is to administer the funding of international aid, to fund a left-wing media organization attack the administration's opponents. If this is not prima facie corruption, what is? Let me just
good thing he pardoned himself.
Yeah, the Associated Press has been raking in millions of dollars in government money for years. The AP's bias also makes perfect sense. So here's what we're uncovering: is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Our taxes have been used to circumvent our First Amendment right of the press, and they put in a bogus press that was propaganda to influence us using deception, and they did it with our own love we went to work and used hard labor to feed our families, and then they commandeered our money
Yes.
to pay to deceive us. And I just believe that Politico and the Associated Press are the first to be exposed. I believe this is a very, very deep subject and goes to the thing that you and I have been pointing out about these press organizations that were losing subscribers. And we kept asking, why don't they care about that? Here's why. Their funding source wasn't coming from subscriptions. It was coming from our tax dollars.
Oh, dude, that was a really good place to end.
Hey, how do they find us?
Oh, God, yeah. Go to over50startingover.com. Sign up there. Get all this to your email list as it happens. Go to YouTube, Over 50 Starting Over. Subscribe, share. Go to Apple Podcasts if you're on Android. Figured this out. Go to Google Podcasts. And please leave us a 5-star rating. Don't forget about Spotify. Both audio and video are there as well.
And
thanks,
here's Mark.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Well, hello there, Over 50 Starting Over friends. Mark Tennant back with you with your AI tip of the week. This week, AI Health and Wellness. Create your personal health and wellness assistant. All yours. Well, I think a lot of us here, as we move into a new year, kind of want to turn over a new leaf in many ways. And health and wellness is one of those subjects that everybody talks about. And we all want to get off to a good start in 2025. But the problem is keeping track of your health and your nutritional goals sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming. Those apps that you find online really don't help that much. They're kind of a pain. And motivation is always that big obstacle for a lot of us. So what do? Well, you can use ChatGPT or AI to create your personal own health plan designed to meet your goals. And we're going to show you how to do that today. So for example, let's just say you want to start walking. And by the way, my tip to you is if you do anything in 2025, get moving, start walking. ChatGPT can help you create that personalized walking plan. So let's open up ChatGPT, and I came up with this prompt. I'm whatever age you are and want to start a walking program. I can currently walk for about 10 minutes comfortably. So create a 4-week plan that gradually increases my activity while including rest days and safety considerations. And ask me 3 questions that'll help you create a plan that is tailored for me. I went ahead and we put that in there. I said, I'm 55. I lie. I put the prompt in and it came up with these 3 questions. What's your primary goal for walking? And focus on your general health, weight, that kind of thing. Do you have any health conditions or joint issues? And what time of day do you prefer walking? All standard questions. So I fed those answers into ChatGPT, and look at this. It came up with a wonderful 4-week plan designed just for me, and it just took a few moments. And you can refine these plans. You could go back in and say, hey, maybe not so much on Wednesdays and maybe a little bit more on Tuesdays. Design it for your plan. And as you can see, it came up with a pretty good 4-week plan. And by week 4, you're walking a 22-minute brisk walk according to the plan. Not bad. So here's a pro tip. If you're using the paid version of ChatGPT, use the advanced voice mode to really talk to it and have it talk back to you. I'm telling you, after about 10 seconds, you'll think you have your own personal wellness coach, and it'll give you that advice that you need. It never gets tired of answering your questions, and it's there for you 24 hours a day. That's the ChatGPT advanced voice mode for the paid version of ChatGPT. So make it a point this week to start. Talk to ChatGPT, start setting those goals, and start creating your own wellness plan. Well, I do have some new news for the year. I started a new podcast. It is called AI After 50, and you can find it anywhere where you get podcasts, on Apple, Spotify, and any of the smaller networks. And it's designed kind of like this, but more advanced, and it's longer. It's about a 10 to 15 minute version every week. We teach you a new lesson every week, actionable things that you can take away from the podcast, practice on, and then come back and get better and better each week. You can download our show notes, which has all of the exercises we're going to be going over. And again, create your own learning plan for AI. I hope you join me, AI After 50. And if you follow me on the socials, I hope you do. If you're on LinkedIn, I'm at Mark E. Tennant. So until next time, create that wellness plan, keep learning, and keep using AI.